And we're live. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Here with Daniel Paulino from Reputation.com. Reputation.
That's a great question. To be honest with you, I'm not personally complaining, whichever one you want to call it.
All right.
The truth of the matter is, it actually the brand name used to be Reputation.com.
Yeah.
And it was changed a few years ago to Reputation. I know this because I was a customer while I was with Bizzuto. Bizzuto's been a long time partner. So I heard that. I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But I have found over the last few weeks that I've been on board that people still call it Reputation.com.
Yeah, that's
In my eyes, I'm not complaining as long as they remember the name.
Right.
At the end of the day, that is the URL. So it's not the brand, but it's the URL. It's totally fine.
Okay. So there we go. Reputation. Reputation.
Yeah. The CMO might not agree with me. She might take offense to it still being called Reputation.com. But again, for me, if you remember who we are, that's totally fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just find us, right? And previously, with a great career, starting from the early days of P&G, and then getting into a couple of other different roles, and then into Bizzuto, VP Digital, and then now into a Reputation. Really excited to have a chat about all that piece of it, because it's all that top of funnel and lead generation side of things that matters so much in our business. Again, we're talking about getting to hell yes. And so the special part about getting to hell yes conversation is we're seeking to find prospects that are, and this could be obviously in a B2C space when you're at Bizzuto, and now in the B2B space when you're at Reputation, that are seeking to solve a problem. They've kind of expressed the problem in one way, shape, or form. They've tried to solve a problem somehow, and usually they're pretty unhappy with the results, and so they're seeking a better solution. Those are the ones that are really landing that getting hell yes space. And probably the challenge for us as sellers is trying to find those people that are seeking to make that are showing indications that they're looking to make that change. Oh, Mindy, right on. This is brought to you by IRCX. We are remote maintenance software for property management. We help you save in windshield time, help you save in all those costs and expenses that relate to field errors. In addition, we help reduce the amount of burnout you have for your team in the field, because we help you take a lot of lift off all the work they're doing and solving present issues and turns. Folks listening, thank you for jumping in for comments already. If you have any comments to jump in with or out, please put them in there. Looking for this exciting conversation here. And like I said, Daniel just started the Reputation recently, so lots to talk about with respect to his experience coming through his entire career and then rolling into the choice to move to Reputation and why Reputation. We'll get into a little bit of that, hopefully. But as we always start out, Daniel, a bit about your background, how you got in this role, and what's the problem that you're solving now at Reputation.
Well, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here. This is my first live event ever, so I'm definitely nervous. I'm actually kind of glad I don't see like a bunch of faces on the screen, because I think that would make me even more nervous. But nevertheless, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So I've spent my career in marketing. That's, all of my career, or most of it, has really been in marketing. And that's been at the intersection of really customer experience, technology, and data. And the focus has, for many years now, been building scalable systems for companies to achieve their growth targets. So most recently, you mentioned earlier, I was with Procter & Gamble. I also did my first part of my career was actually with Wells Fargo. Then I was in publishing, and then this random company that I couldn't really pronounce and never heard of, called Bizzuto, reached out to me, and I was like, what is that? And in my first conversations with Kelly Shannon, who became my boss, my friend, my mentor, and someone that I'm just eternally grateful to for giving me the shot to join the company. One of the first things that she told me in my interview was, this is an industry that we feel like we're behind the times. We're behind the times. We're not as, we don't have as much tech, and we haven't made it as far in really understanding the customer journey as other industries. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for somebody from outside of the industry that has experience in other industries to help us solve that. So I always say, to me, I definitely chase challenges. To me, it's not about titles. It's not about prestige. It's not about paychecks. It's really about, at the end of the day, what am I waking up to do? And so for me, that was like such an intriguing thing when I heard, like, wait, we're behind the times, but this is a massive industry that actually impacts millions of people every day, right? There's millions of renters throughout the country. So I was with Bizzuto as VP of digital strategy. I started right before COVID, so it was a very interesting time to start. And I fell in love with this industry. I saw firsthand some of the pressing challenges, especially around scaling performance across a large portfolio with hundreds of locations. Um, it that time at Bizzuto just really gave me such a passion for the industry, and ultimately, Guillermo, I just got such an interest in, like, how can I help more of the industry solve some of its challenges. So the role I'm in now, and I know we'll talk more about that throughout this time, but the role I'm in now is absolutely perfect for that, because I get to help other companies in the space with some of the challenges they face, specifically around this new age of generative AI and all the changes that are happening so fast in regards to how consumers discover, choose, and become loyal to brands. So that's what I'm excited about, and I'm looking forward to talking more about that.
And so given that your kind of background, like I said, the convergence of technology, tech, and data, or customer experience, tech, and data, and that makes a very natural fit with reputation, right? When you take a look at those things, like, I'm curious, why, in your mind, so Kelly would approach to you in like 2019, 2000, 2020, things were pretty good then. Like, there was no reason to change. And one of the things we're always kind of listening for in this conversation is, like, what was Kelly seeking to solve at that time that she identified that they need to have a senior leader in a digital customer experience role, when by and large, I mean, especially in 2020 or coming into 2020, there wasn't a lot of attention to the resident experience. I mean, even relative to other, I mean, especially relative to other industries. Like, if we look at like insurance, banking, other heavy lifetime customer value industries, the customer experience is there's chief customer officers, right? But that role doesn't necessarily persist today, much less 5 years ago. What was Kelly seeing that she needed to make a change?
That's a great question. So first of all, I want to give credit where credit is due. I wasn't the head of CX. I was the head of digital strategy. Yeah. So the head of CX was a very, very beloved colleague of mine who I consider the GOAT in the industry for customer experience. Her name is Jenna Miller, and her and I partnered together and learned a lot from each other. She's more the traditional customer experience. I'm definitely more of the digital experience, digital strategy, leveraging technology and data. So we worked really closely together. But to your question, that's one of the things that I didn't know, obviously, about Bizzuto when I got hired. It's like, I didn't even know who they were, right? They told me, hey, we're a leader in the industry. And when I was interviewing, I was like, okay, I'm sure everybody will say that. But I was still really intrigued by what I was hearing in regards to the challenges in the industry. And I was just like, let me get my hands on this. Like, I can't wait to try to solve some of these issues, because I'm hearing how pressing they are. So to your question about what was she seeing, that's one of the things that I really came to love about Bizzuto, is Bizzuto is always thinking years ahead. They don't care how far ahead they are from the industry. They don't care, like, how others say, like, you're leaps and bounds ahead. They are so passionate about their mission and what they want to do. What I heard consistently from day one, and I heard it for the next 5 years all the time, is we want to become a love brand. And when you talk to them about what does that really mean, what they say is, we want to be a brand for which our customers will accept no substitute. When you
Mhm.
really peel that back, that's like a really lofty goal. It's super inspirational, actually. So for me, being new to the industry and knowing nothing about property management, knowing nothing about real estate, I made it my mission to how can I support this company in this, right? I've never worked at a property. I wasn't a lifelong industry person. So for me, my contributions couldn't be about daily operations, right? I would be in meetings all the time where there would be obsession about like, how can we make sure that the entry experience is better, that the scent is consistent, that we always have fresh flowers. And I was amazed by all of that because it's like this company has such a great reputation. They're already doing so well, yet they obsess about every little detail. So for me, it was more about how can I bring in the digital realm and the digital experience to complement that. And at first, there was a lot of conversations about like, okay, we're a company that you live in our buildings. That's what our customers, they live in, they spend a lot of money and they live in our buildings and they spend most of their time there. So we don't need to worry about the digital realm. And I really just was trying to figure out how can I articulate why that's so important. And for me, it really became about an overall brand promise and a brand experience. And I know that these days, customers that are passionate about brands, whether it's hardware, a clothing brand, it can be any physical good. At the end of the day, they have a lot of digital interactions with that brand. And for me, it's like, how can I build systems and help them scale in a way that, look, yes, you live in our buildings, but there's many times that you're not in our building. So how can we provide you a digital experience that's going to complement the physical? So I always called it, I learned this term called phygital. It's basically combining digital and physical. And I really always try to point it to the North Star, right? Because I don't want to be that tech geek, guy who's like the digital guy who's always cares about technology and he's shiny light syndrome with new technology. What I really focus on is how do I point everything that I do towards the goal of the brand, which is becoming a love brand, which is providing a better and different experience than anybody else. And so anything that I did for the next 5 years in regards to recommendation on what we did with digital strategy and technology and digital experience was always pointed towards how do we become a brand that stands out from the rest and that people are passionate about.
How did you guys go about defining the problem that needed to be solved because like we're talking about a lot of solutions here with respect to digital and the brand. I mean, and this is, we're laying a nice little pathway to get to reputation, the reputation experience or choice, but like those things that you have done from a solution perspective, how did you guys articulate the problem that needed to be solved and why was that a priority?
That's a great question. There's so many levels to solving or articulating problems, right? So you can start like playing whack-a-mole with problems. And I always choose not to do that because that can be isolating, right? That can be polarizing as well, where some executives agree with the issues that you're articulating and some don't. So I really always try to take a step back and be more like systems thinking, really thinking about the larger problem and then the long-term, strategy of where we're trying to get to. So as opposed to saying, look, as an example, like our website needs to be better or our app, sucks. That's not the way to win over executives who are not digital strategy, digital experience people. You say something like that in an operations world, in a world with physical products, and you may lose people. So for me, it's always been about how do I bridge the gap and how do I sell the vision that, hey, what you're so passionate about, providing the best experience in person, consumers these days actually expect more. All the brands they love, they want to have a digital experience with as well, not just the physical, right? Like I always say, like one of the coolest things, I mean, I'm definitely an Apple fanboy, but like when I go to an Apple store, anybody goes to an Apple store, your Apple devices come to life. It's like your phone starts pinging things at you saying you can do this, or you don't have to wait in line. You can check out seamlessly. It's like, what a blend, what an amazing blend. And so that's when you're talking to an operations person or a customer experience person that doesn't think digital first, and you can articulate it in that manner, it does speak to them, because they're like, hey, maybe this is not how I think, you know, kind of natively, but this is going to help to drive more loyalty to our brand and more choice. And let's face it, you know, I know the industry doesn't like to talk about this, but our product is a commodity. At the end of the day, you know, anybody can build an awesome building. If they have enough money and enough desire, they can hire the right developers, the right architects, the right interior designers. And so what is the differentiation? It's not the building. If we lean in on the building being the differentiation, we're susceptible to the next latest and greatest building that opens right across the street. Yep. So brands are really all about the experience and having them understand who you are and tailor that experience to you. I know it almost can seem like a silly analogy, but I talk about it like the way I think about it and talk about it is like relationships. If we're always looking for the best and the newest, we would be trading partners all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Whether in marriages or any kind of partnership. But bottom line, what keeps you in a relationship is that this person gets me, this person understands me, we have shared values, they truly understand me. And that's what a brand should do for its customers. And that's not about features and benefits. That's so much more than that. And that's something I'm, you know, looking forward to talking more about during this time.
Yeah, I think you're talking about, like, I think so. We're aligned in a lot of these conversations, right? So like I kind of talk a lot about, and I try and keep it simple for myself, that, you know, there's three ways to compete. You can compete on product, which includes innovation. You can compete on experience, which is like customer service, customer intimacy, or you can compete on OpEx, which means price. And if you don't know what you're competing on, you're competing on price. And that's the worst place.
That's right.
Right. And so we look at right now, from a fee manager perspective, that there's like 2%, 1.5% fee manager, you know, rates out there. It's very, very competitive. They're moving on price because the absence of a brand and a commitment to an experience and a brand promise creates vulnerability on what that commitment is to get to the customer. Like, and it's funny when we talk about brand, you know, everyone immediately jumps to the higher end brands with respect to what they commit to, but realistically, it's not a highest end brand. I mean, I use the example all the time. McDonald's is the biggest restaurant in the world because they do the same thing over and over again. I can go to the store and buy 2 pens. I can buy a Bic pen, which I know I'm going to get. I can go buy a Montclair, and I know what I'm going to get there, but I'm buying them for different reasons. And the brands deliver a different thing. Right. The Bic pen helps me fill out a postcard, but a Montclair allows me to, you know, whatever, to be present, or, you know, to have a prestige to what I'm doing. They're both pens. And so like in the pen analogy, I hope I went too far with this, they have to both write, but everything else is what you're paying for. Like both pens write, both, you know, buildings provide accommodation, provide a residence or accommodation. They're both, you know, 3 boxes and 2 bedrooms. But like, how do we begin to convey that in a way that you can compete on? Right. So what I find really interesting in the centralization conversation, everyone's talking about centralization, but centralization is really about brand and about consistency. It's very little about, if you're doing it for cost, you're probably going to, that's a side effect of doing it for consistency and compete.
That's such a great point. And I want to challenge you on one thing. So hopefully you don't mind some friendly debate on this. Well, we'll do this obviously very respectfully. What I would say is, to your analogy about McDonald's and Mont Blanc, those are obviously at the opposite end of the spectrums as far as price and value, etc. I have a different analogy. So for me, yes, McDonald's has, some things you can count on, which is they're everywhere. You know what the menu is. They show up consistently all over the world. Those are the only things that I feel like you can actually count on for McDonald's. You can go to one location or another and have completely different experiences. To me, it's actually the most inconsistent experience. There's sometimes my daughter wants to go there and we'll get food. Sometimes the food is fresh. Sometimes you have a friendly face. Many times you don't. Many times the face and the experience is like they're really upset that you're actually showed up. So to me, it's not, I want to be clear because it's not about luxury. It's not about price. Mm-hmm. So what I always think about is, for example, on the same, kind of the same plane, fast food, Chick-fil-A. Yes, they don't show up as often. They don't have as many locations. They're not worldwide necessarily like McDonald's is. But one of the things that's super interesting about Chick-fil-A is that you can count on the experience. The food is always fresh. The people are always friendly. And one of the things that I think we overlook when it comes to brands and loving a brand and being loyal to a brand is that it doesn't mean that they'll never make a mistake. What it means is that I know if they will make a mistake, I kind of can already expect how they're going to recover from that mistake. And for me, that the brands that stand out, there's many others, but the brands that stand out when it comes to service recovery are definitely Chick-fil-A, Apple, Nordstrom. I'm really loyal to all those brands. And to me, loving them is not about, hey, they never make a mistake. It's actually the proof that happens, or it's the experience that happens when they do make a mistake. You almost can expect it. You're like, oh, it's all right. If they make a mistake, I know what's going to happen. They're going to be profusely apologetic. They're going to offer me something that I didn't expect, and it's more than what I am asking for, and they're going to make it right. And somehow that experience ends up with me liking them even more by them making a mistake. Isn't that interesting?
I love that point. Like, there's a like I had explained to me one time that like a brand can apologize for a mistake, but a relationship seeks forgiveness for the mistake.
That's right.
And the difference is that if I'm apologizing, I'm sending you something. I'm conveying something. But if I'm seeking forgiveness, I'm asking for you to give me something back. And that intimacy into seeking forgiveness versus apologizing, those are galaxies apart.
That's right. And isn't there so many parallels to relationships? I know, again, it can seem silly, but when you're dating, your ability to overlook faults or missteps is not as much as when you're in a committed relationship, right? And so when we think about brands, it's like, hey, your first experience, it may not, if it doesn't go well, it's almost like a first date. It's like, they lost me, right? Yeah. But when you've had an opportunity for that brand to win you over, the same as when you're in a relationship, forgiveness is easy because you know that the values align and that the long term is like, this is a perfect fit or this is a great fit. Mm-hmm. So, not to be so philosophical here, but I do think that there's so many parallels between brands and loyalty and relationships. There just is.
Oh, I mean, no, it's well written, right? If you look at, you look at the Gottman trust bank concept, right? So the emotional bank of that it takes 5 good things to overcome 1 negative thing. Those are all truisms, right? And they're not really baked into kind of like psychology. It goes back to our human evolution and anthropology. Like, we're designed to survive. So we're designed to overreact to painful experiences. And there's no market in the world that can design against that. We are designed for that. That is the human condition. And so if you don't absorb that and recognize that you've got to go for every negative event, there's got to be 5 events, and that's the math. Oh, and by the way, that negative event has a chance of traveling 10 times faster than the good events. You realize that delighting people can be a really difficult thing to do. But if you just do the job, just doing the job helps you angle in on what you're trying to achieve from building that relationship. Because like as humans, we desperately seek predictability and reliability. Desperately. That's core to our decision-making framework. And so if our experience is by circumstance variable, that is a path to competing on price because you have no control over everything else.
And that's such a good point. As far as we expect to almost can be able to predict the experience. When I think about like when I go on, I love traveling. I love international travel. Mm-hmm. When every time I'm preparing to go to a vacation, I'm obsessively reading reviews on TripAdvisor. And the reason is like, no matter how good the hotel or the resort might seem, and I always look by the recent reviews, not just the average, right? Yeah. The recent, like what's happening recently. I do get analysis paralysis because it's like, hey, this hotel looks great. The pictures look amazing. All the social media looks great. But recently people are saying, X, Y, and Z. It gives me a lot of pause. And that's such a real emotional thing that I think we all have with so many decisions we make, whether it's where we live, what car we buy, etc. And so it's something that brands really need to lean into more. For me, it's not just about, hey, all the reviews are great. It's like, what happens when there's missteps? I see reviews that are negative on some hotels, and then all the responses from the hotel are boilerplate language. It's like you're almost cringing because you're like, they're saying the same thing to every single one. And certainly, there's some variability to that, right? People have different expectations. There's some, can I say Karen? There's some Karens, there's some Kevins out there who like to complain about all kinds of things. But you have to take that with a grain of salt, but nevertheless, it does influence your impression. And so it's really all about how does the business handle that? And that's part of, really reputation management. But one of the things that I want to make sure that we talk about, Guillermo, is that to me, reputation management is way more than just reviews and what people are saying. There's so much more to it, especially in this age of AI, which is one of the things that's particularly interesting to me about this space and why I'm passionate about it, because being discovered as a brand, being discovered or being recommended is extremely important. And that is so different today than years ago. Years ago, it was just like, do I have good reviews? People will then choose me. Today, it's so different than that. It's not about them just choosing you. It's actually, are you getting recommended? Are they even seeing you? Are they finding you? And so there's a lot more to it these days than there used to be.
So as you kind of move into this, as you started this new role, and you see the opportunities before you, because there's no doubt that, like, by the way, if you ever want to start like really digging in, like I've been in looking at reviews for a while, but I just discovered Reddit. I know I knew about it for a long time, but discovering the threads and subreddits and Reddit around multifamily. You got to be careful because you can be there for quite a while just reading through the car accidents. But it's like going through it and seeing these things that are happening. Where do you see the opportunity lies? Like now that you're in a B2B role, you're going to be leading, especially in real estate. Real estate's a broad lens. Is it specifically residential or is it commercial as well?
It's all of the above. At the end of the day, when you're a consumer, whether you're an individual consumer or a business, you have choice. Mm-hmm. And when you have choice, your money is the vote and your choice is the vote. So, at the end of the day, when I decided to join Reputation, my expertise and my experience within real estate is within multifamily property management.
Mhm.
However, there's a massive opportunity for any multi-location real estate company. And so there's a lot of verticals that we can go into. So which one matters more? I can't tell you that there's one that's more important. I mean, the largest number of transactions, of course, are always going to be on the B2C side. But B2B is a massive weight, right? We've been hearing and reading, all of us, I'm sure, maybe with different levels of emotion around all the RTO that's going on now, like return to office, and companies are not as friendly to remote work anymore or hybrid work, and they want you to be in the office. All of that matters. Those employers, they care about what do their employees think about this potential lease they're going to sign in this location. So it's extremely important what people think, what's on their mind, the ease of access, the walkability, restaurants nearby. All of those things really matter. And employers are weighing that when they make decisions of, renewing leases or looking for new office space, because again, there's a lot of demand in across all industries for RTO, which I
Mhm.
know a lot of employees are not happy about, and I totally get that, but it is a reality. So I can't say that one matters more than the other. I mean, if you're an employee, even if you're not super happy about RTO, and where now we went from 2 days a week in the office to 3 or 4, um, what you do care about is your employer being selective in where they go. Like, are they just signing it based on convenience or price, or do they care about what it means? Like, if they're looking at reviews that are saying, "Hey, and as an employee, I don't mind coming to to the work here because there's conveniences, there's restaurants nearby, there's amenities, there's food delivery that I don't even have to pay extra fees for. It just comes to the building." Those things matter. So for us, Guillermo, right now, my focus in leading the real estate vertical at Reputation, certainly in initial phases, is really around multifamily, because
Mhm.
that's the space that I'm passionate about. That's what I know. That's where I have a network. But our eye is definitely on growing into other verticals, student, senior housing, storage, commercial, you name it. At the end of the day, we can provide value to all these industries, but I'm very focused on making sure that we're providing real value and that the proof is there that that's what we're doing and that we're getting that feedback, versus let's just go and get business wherever we can. I want to be very measured about that. Leadership above me is very supportive of that process. So for me, it's a crawl, walk, run. It's let's get wins and let's have passionate advocates before and we already do in multifamily, but certainly there's more that we can do before
Mhm.
we start expanding into other verticals.
And that's perfect for this audience digging in the multifamily side of things, because that's why we're here. So when you take a look at uh, the market you're going to be selling into, and talking about like owners versus third party, like where do you see, or owner operator versus third party, where do you see your focus leaning in towards? Like, who do you think? Like, reputation is a funny thing, because what I've learned in the last year here is that reputation matters differently to those different stakeholders.
That's absolutely right. And one of the things that I have, that I had to parse out and really think through when I was choosing this opportunity, is that I think there's actually a misnomer in the industry about what reputation really is. Reputation used to be just about reviews. Like, do you have good reviews? Yes or no? And that's the old school way of thinking, and that's how marketing used to work. But this day and age, Guillermo, increasingly, there's much more to it. And I don't want to, kind of sound like a commercial for our platform, but bottom line is, these days, a platform like what we have is helping you to really not only, of course, the standard reputation of having good reviews, but it's actually being recommended and discovered. And that's so different. In the past, it just used to be like a check the box as a consumer. Does this business have good reviews? If so, then more than likely I should choose them. They're gonna provide me the experience I'm looking for. These days, with the newest algorithms on Google and generative AI, it's actually quite different. It's like you won't even be recommended or found unless you have. It's not just about having a good score. There's so much more to it. It's not about just having like good average review. So who hasn't? I mean, there's many people in the audience today who hasn't searched restaurant near me or apartments near me or pizza near me or whatever it may be, and you're scrolling and on the third or fourth page of results, you see a provider that has 4.8 stars. And you're like, wait a minute, why weren't they on the first page? Like the first page I thought was like all the best, and it's not. And so there's so much more to the algorithm than just average star ratings. And that's what having a platform and a partner like Reputation helps you to truly dissect and understand. Because if all you're chasing is good reviews or good average ratings, you can do a lot to game that. And next thing you know, you're still not recommended highly. So the algorithms are really smart these days. They take into consideration so many more factors. And so the way that we focus on that is really around what we call the reputation score. And so, again, I don't want to turn this into a commercial for Reputation, but what I will say is that it gives you a lot more confidence about the overall health of your business, operationally, top of the funnel awareness with marketing, and truly being sure that your business is moving in the right way. And I saw this in action with Bizzuto. Bizzuto, when I was there, and to this day, they use reputation score on every platform, every BI report, when it comes to the annual award ceremony, when it comes to improving operations and how the property managers are measured and the regionals. It's all about the reputation score because it's a very cohesive score that tells you much more than just the average reviews. So that's something that's super important and people should be looking out for. These days, again, it's not a one-dimensional thing. So there's much more to it than just, do we have good average reviews? I mean, again, we've all experienced where we're seeing on Google, we're seeing companies that's like, wait a minute, they have great reviews. Why weren't they recommended? Or vice versa. You have one that maybe is like a 3.8 or a 4.0, but it's actually on the first page of results. And so there's a lot to that. And that's something that we really need to be careful of as an industry, because I think we've been too singularly focused on average reviews. And that's a poor indicator for performance, both from a front end, which I consider it to be marketing, to back end, which is operations. And so we really need to think about our businesses broadly and the health throughout the entire life cycle of prospect to resident. And a platform like we have is really what can help you to dial in on that.
I think this, and something to kind of pick on a little bit, is that like ratings and promoter worthiness are different things. And so you talk a lot about, will you recommendability and discoverability. Those are different than ratings.
Totally.
And so how do you, so like in terms of the problem that we're trying to solve here, right? Like if you're running your business based on reviews, it's a limited subset. It's based on typically, 1 to 5. You're lucky at your 5s, et cetera, et cetera. Why are, and just because you get a review, that doesn't necessarily drive revenue, because the big problem we've often heard about in this customer experience side of things, attribution between a review and revenue creation. Right? Nick Mehta, Gainsight, does a lot of talking about this, right? And so you get into how is it different? Because like the alternatives to solve that problem is great. Okay, I'm doing good enough to not get bad ratings or to stay in the top, whatever, 4.5 and up. But how do I get people to recommend? That is a different, like, a different commitment to a relationship, as we were talking earlier.
It's totally different. And that's one of the things that really excites me about this opportunity and technology that we have and where we're headed, is that it's really about the overall health. It's not about one metric. And I think that's one of the mistakes that people make, is that, hey, it's all about the metrics. So that's like thinking, hey, my health is all about my weight, right? You know, if that's all you're thinking about is your weight, you're not really looking at the full picture. So there's ways that you can kind of like hack your weight, right? Like you can like just eat less, but you're still eating a lot of junk. You name it, right? Don't need to go into all the different ways of doing that. But if that's all you're looking at, you can be foregoing a lot of things that are really true health indicators. And so, you know, isn't it possible that there's two people that are the same height and sex, but one maybe weighs a little bit more, but they're actually healthier? Absolutely. There's many ways that that can happen. And so what I want people to know in the audience is that when it comes to like average reviews, it's such a misnomer to really think about that as the only way to look at health for your business. So we again, we have a patented, what we call the reputation score, which many of our clients use, and we have a lot of ROI case studies and analysis on what it helps you do. It really helps you to really focus on the actual health of your business. So as an example, at Bizzuto, there's no conversations about what are the average reviews for any one property. Nobody talks about that. Why? Because Bizzuto is a partner of reputation that has a reputation score, and the score is much more important because the score shows holistic health. And I won't go into all the different factors for that, but one of the things to really be mindful of is that the score is not just a score, it also has actions on how you can improve the score. So that's what I think is really intriguing about it, is that it's like, hey, if you want to get better, here's what you should be focusing on. So anything that's just giving you diagnostics, I don't think is enough these days. It's all about how can you be prescriptive and help your customer be better. So we've been partnering with Greystar for almost 15 years now. And one of the things that we've seen is that with Greystar, and this is across their massive portfolio, is that anytime that any property can increase their reputation score by 50 points, which they've had thousands of properties actually increased by way more than that, it actually results in a 3.8% increase in NOI and almost $100,000 in additional net revenue per year, rents per year. So we have this down to a system. You know, operators like Bizzuto and Greystar and even Thrive Communities and many others, we've done case studies where it's like we can actually show the ROI. So the thing about this is it's not about, like, I know a lot of leaders are so focused on the average star reviews, but at the end of the day, that's a metric. What you really want is a healthy business. I want a business as an operator where I know what to focus on, where I know that I'm leveraging consumer or our customers' feedback to improve my business in ways that actually translate to more profitability. That is so much more important. And then that profitability also includes loyalty, retention, and choice. Then that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So again, you know, I would all day long rather focus on this than a competitor who all they care about is average reviews, average star ratings, because I can tell you that without any doubt, that I can run a much healthier business by focusing on more cohesive and kind of broad ranging numbers and data than just one, like how much, you know, what's our Google review rating.
Do you find, like, one of the things that we've always kind of like, and this comes from our customers talking to us as well, is that, reputation is a result from a team game, as you just described, right? A summary of different metrics. But sales is kind of like a summary of individual performances. And so they find it hard to create change like this quarter, next quarter, from a reputation perspective, because it is a result of a team game and can feel like a lagging indicator. Is that something you guys address? Like, how does that solve?
It's interesting because I actually don't look at it as a lagging indicator.
Feels like, sorry, that's why I use the word feels like. It feels like a
Sure.
lagging.
I mean, it can be, and it can be like, hey, if we, this is all this feedback is about things we did in the past. But the truth of the matter is, when you have the right platform, the right technology that scales, and you're getting feedback, structured and unstructured feedback on a daily basis from social, from surveys, from reviews, and so many other ways. Basically, at that point, you have a living, breathing, daily updated score, or
Which
way
makes it a leading indicator.
It's a leading indicator.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that's super interesting. And today, I've purposely chosen not to like lean in on conversations about AI and machine learning, because that can be alienating for some people in the industry, because honestly, we're so tired of hearing about it. But that's one of the things that I am really was so compelling to me about what reputation does, is that we're really leaning in to predictive analytics. So when we have data on tens of thousands of buildings throughout the country who are our customers, but we're also ingesting data from all the buildings that are not our customers, and we've got some really serious data science and machine learning algorithms behind that. And in addition to all the multifamily buildings, we also have tens of thousands of businesses throughout the globe. We have a massive data set that can help us predict customer sentiment and what that impact can be on your business. And it helps you isolate what to focus on. So if you think about that, it's like, if on a daily basis, it's basically getting the heartbeat of what's happening with customers and how our operations are impacting them, and it can signal to us what to focus on before it becomes an issue that affects the bottom line. That's a really powerful platform. That now becomes, I think reputation management platform is almost limiting, because this comes an operational intelligence platform. It's how do we improve our business on a daily basis to make people happier, which is the reputation part, but then to also end up with or result in better business outcomes, which we care about. Our clients, third party, most of the industry is third party, also care about. So it's a win for everybody. We can provide a better customer experience and differentiate ourselves as fee managers, which again, most of the industry is a fee manager. If we can differentiate ourselves and then also provide better outcomes for our clients, that's a three-legged stool that is like, hey, let's do that all day. That's providing better outcomes for everybody.
Do you find that here's the interesting thing about CX and reputation, and reputation management, is like, it all seems like there must be a lot of nodding heads, because it's not controversial. It's like, do right, but people still say no. So what kind of, you maybe not have been there long enough to be involved in some of the objections, but what are some of the objections?
That's such a good question. And I appreciate that you asked that, because the truth of the matter is that the do right, or just, it's common sense, we just have to do the right thing, it seems natural for people who are in marketing or customer experience or operations. But the truth of the matter is that there are other parts of this industry that maybe don't think about that as being an impact on the business, right? There's asset management, right? There's people who are financing and underwriting deals, investors. And it's not that they don't care about customer experience, it's that they think that it's too far from what provides them the return they're looking for. They're looking more at financial instruments that they can manipulate budget decisions, investment decisions, cut this, invest in that. And so anything that has to do with experience almost seems like a longer term, like, hey, we really can't point to that. It's more nebulous, right? So we're talking about, like, on the one hand, we're talking about customer experience and marketing people who kind of like lead with their heart almost, versus the very rational. So it's like emotional versus rational.
Right.
And so the emotional, it's so near term. Like, we have to do the right thing. We have to do better. And that's what people care about. And that's what's going to translate into loyalty and returns. Whereas the rational, it's like spreadsheets. It's like, I'm manipulating a formula that can show me on this model that I'm getting returns. So when you start talking about nebulous things like experience, that's really hard to quantify. So what we do with our platform is we're actually able to, because there's so much data ingested from so many different, what used to be so many different point solutions, is we have aggregated insights that can actually show you how showing up to more prospects at the top of the funnel and providing the best experience to your existing residents, which is, in a different part of the customer journey, how that translates to ROI. And if you can do that over a massive amount of businesses like we have, and really rigorous machine learning models and algorithms, at that point, it becomes hard to dispute it. And the fact that we have data and case studies like this with Greystar, who's the largest operator in the world, it's pretty hard to dispute that.
Do you find that, like, something you brought up, and this may be timely for the audience, given that we're kind of rolling into budget season right now, is that, you may have an indication that something is not right, or not, you need to fix something, but not know where. And it kind of goes to some of the idioms around marketing. But like what you mentioned earlier that you're able to deliver on, and this gets to the problem that you solve, is that if you've got a customer experience or reputation or renewal problem that's presenting itself as terms of renewals or complaints or feedback or reviews, you've got to, like, address that somehow, but you don't know where to start, right? You might want to throw some more pizza parties, which, depending on if you believe that works or not, that might be the result, right? What you try. But every single, the appearance of something that needs to be solved creates a response. And right now people are budgeting their responses to all these different things. And in many cases, they're either doing what they did last year, hoping for a different result, or they're guessing. And so what I heard from you talking about the problem is that, like, let's stop guessing, or we use the word gambling because it is a gamble. Stop gambling on the results and focus. And so what I heard in terms of the problem that you solve is not only the reputation piece, but allowing your customers to focus on where they want to, allocate their resources. Because it could be people, time, money, whatever. But that allocation of resources is the difference between winning and losing.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with your thinking on this. At the end of the day, I've been on the operations side. I totally understand it. There is just a massive amount of things happening that are unplanned on a daily basis at all levels of the business. And there's an opportunity cost, frankly, for people's time and attention and prioritization. So an opportunity cost just means, like, hey, if I focus on this thing, then I can't focus on those 10 other things that are also, seemingly important, or that there is disagreement on the importance of. So what's really nice about a platform like ours is that it actually helps you to reduce the noise and to really understand, hey, look, we have reviews coming across hundreds or dozens or hundreds of properties, and we're getting all kinds of things. You can word cloud it to death, and you can print out as many reports and whatever you want. But if you don't have a platform that truly tells you, here are what you need to focus on in this region or at this property, here's the priority, and here's what matters when it comes to the overall impact of that property, then, or that region or that portfolio, whatever it may be, then you're prioritizing blind. You're just guessing, and it's your opinion versus someone else, and whoever's the loudest person or the most, the highest person on the org chart is going to win. This gives you objective truth about what to focus on, and it can show you that when you focus on it, you can see the trend over time, how it impacts your business. That's really powerful. That's what Bizzuto does, and what I've seen them do for years is that it's not about opinions. It's about, what does this platform tell them to focus on? That's super powerful, because at that you have objective truth that's gained, again, not only over tens of thousands of buildings throughout the country, but hundreds of thousands of locations and different businesses throughout the globe. That's very important and impactful. And it gives you that confidence that this is what you need to be focusing on. So I would say having this type of thing versus just, again, manually looking at reviews or having some kind of word cloud is much more impactful, and actually helps to improve your business and the bottom line. And it gives you confidence that what you're focusing on actually matters. So having that, and then we also can give you actions, like literally a ticketing system within our platform that says, when we see certain triggers on certain trends and reviews, it starts to create tickets, and it starts to notify people, these are things that you need to actually take care of in your business. So that's why I almost think that calling it a reputation management platform is a bit limiting, because it's so much more than that. It's not just that, it's also operational intelligence, but it's also prioritization and focusing on what matters that delivers the best results for your business.
Because the alternative is carpet bombing pizza parties across every single building inside your property, inside your portfolio.
And we love a good pizza party and a good pool party. I mean, we can do those all day long, but how those actually impact things shouldn't be a priority.
Everyone gets pretty bummed out that it didn't move the needle, right? In fact, we've heard many stories where the pizza parties where people get around and get even more amplified about what's not working. And so, like, you're creating a water hole for complaints.
Absolutely. Guillermo, it was awesome talking. I would say that, and I didn't want to go, we don't have time to go into it, but the insights that we have from clients around the globe in different industries into how this platform has helped them to solve things that, like, at face value are actually quite simple, but have such a huge impact, is pretty remarkable. When it comes to, like, hey, there's this one thing that we just didn't know, it was a complete blind spot for us, and we saw it, this platform told us to focus on it, and when we did, it unlocked value and loyalty and choice. What a powerful thing.
No kidding. So we go back, we'll close up for everybody real quick here. So when you go back over your course of your career, and it's very interesting to see how this kind of led into the reputation, decision, and choice and opportunity. What's the piece of advice you'd give either yourself in a younger Daniel, or someone who's joining your meeting the first time at Reputation? What's the piece of advice you'd give them with respect to trying to find these hell yes customers?
Ooh, that's a good one. For me, what I would say, finding that the right customers, it's all about linking your passion with what matters to them. People know what I'm passionate about in this industry. They know what they've seen me speak about. They know what the challenges that I've tackled, what I've prioritized. And so if I'm getting in front of prospective customers in this industry, if I can listen to their challenges and where they're struggling, where they don't have insights, where they don't know how to prioritize, or where they have blind spots, it's really easy for me to have that consultative conversation around, look, this is, not only what I'm hearing from you today, but if we look into the future, into the trend of generative AI and so many things that are changing, here's how we can help you solve for that. So I think that's the best advice, is really find things that you're passionate about and make sure that you're aligning your career to things that it just is an authentic story. I mean, again, this is such a natural fit for me, not only because of what my passions are and what I've done, but the fact that I actually worked at the company that is, almost unanimously comes to mind when it comes to reputation management, Bizzuto, and that we were actually a customer, and I saw how that platform is used on a daily basis. What an authentic story. So I think authenticity and passion are the number one thing that I would give advice about.
That's amazing. And for those that are trying to seek authenticity or passion, that's part of your own personal journey, right? And so it's we talk about authenticity, passion, and you may not know what it might be. And so that's a separate conversation for people with more letters behind their names and before their names than I am. But I do recommend I had this conversation with somebody on the show previously. When you're authentic, it takes a lot of work to be inauthentic. I'll put it that way. It takes a lot of effort to be inauthentic. It takes a lot of energy.
True. I was recruited by companies. I don't want to say what they are or what they do or anything, but there was things that I was recruited by in this space. And even though I'm totally passionate about multifamily and I never want to do anything but multifamily, there was some companies that were recruiting me that the product, what they do, the service, I have no interest in, and I couldn't even fake my way into it. And I just was like, wow, no matter what the title is, no matter what the pay, that would be so inauthentic. I would be doing myself a disservice, and I would absolutely be doing anybody I'm trying to talk to about that service a complete disservice.
It just takes a lot of energy.
It's not worth it. Life's too short. You got to align yourself with things that you wake up every day and you're like, wow, things have aligned for me, and I can't believe I'm doing this. In the last 5 years, in my previous role with Bizzuto and in this role, I keep thinking how is it that I'm actually getting paid to do this? This is crazy, because if I wasn't getting paid, I would literally be researching and obsessing this stuff anyway. Somehow somebody's paying me to do this.
That's amazing. Well, there's your alignment, right? Who should we talk to next on the show?
Who should you talk to?
Yeah, who should we have on next? Who should be next?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm gonna have to think on that. I don't know if you put me on the spot. You didn't even tell me that you were gonna ask me this. One of the people that I guess I'm just gonna go off the fire. One of the people that I admire most and that I mentor, but I also admire, which is an interesting dynamic, is Sydney Weber from Ben. So
okay. And actually, Ben's a great company. They do great stuff out there. That's awesome. Well, I'll definitely reach out to Sydney. If I have trouble, I'll touch base. Everyone listening, thank you very much for dialing in and listening into the show. Appreciate it. If you're listening to the show after the live, any comments you put in there, we'll both get notifications, and we can jump on there for any questions. If you want to get a hold of Daniel, LinkedIn, it's linked right to the show here. Check in with him there. And if you're watching on YouTube or on the podcast, hit subscribe. Helps people find us a whole lot easier, so they can kind of enjoy these conversations with folks like Daniel to learn about some of the things that we're learning about and all these shared life experiences. This has been such a great show. I really appreciate everything you brought to the table, especially being so new to your role and having all that kind of depth and transparency and authenticity around your own personal story. This has been outstanding. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for sharing so much. And I hope everyone hears that loud and clear, especially as there's a lot of changes that are happening in the system, in the market right now. Finding that passion and linking it to somebody that needs that passion to be filled can make your life a whole lot easier and help you, seek stratospheric results. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank
you so much. Appreciate it.